Greetings, Dumela, Sawubona, Sakpase, Namaste, Abshin, Dubra Assalamu alaikum, Hotep, Buenas noches, Bonsoir. I found another one, Ekaro. That's my new, also to say Edaro. Edaro means good evening. So that's my new word that I'm going to add to this slew of greetings for you all. Welcome to the Doria Lario Show. This is season 6, episode 2. This is actually the second part of a 3-part series. If you did not catch it on March 4th, that is okay. It is on the replay. Just go back and look at the video either in the Facebook land or here in the YouTube land. And we are talking with a great sister, author, Mia. Whoops, you may not be able to see it, but you'll see it in the caption. Oh, you can't see it. Anyway, it's called Think, Learn, and Feel Rich, written by Mia James. We're going to get her right in because, again, this is part 2. And so I look forward to having a great, great, great conversation. We talked about some great things last time. Again, this is the second in a 3-part series. If you have not gotten your book, get your book. The link will be in the description so that you can get it if you are watching in real time or afterwards. Let's get Mia on and let's get chatting.
Awesome. Thanks for having me, Doriel, tonight. Hello, everyone. Greetings. I love all your greetings. They were awesome. And thank you to everyone who supported the book. So let's jump in because I know we are short on time tonight, and I want to do my best because I have a lot to say for tonight's topic, which we're focusing on learn. So, Doriel, do you mind bringing the slides up for me, please?
You sure? You got it.
Thank you. All right, so we're going to jump in, and like I said, tonight we're focusing on learn, right? So last week we talked about our mindset. This week we're going to go through a majority of the chapters in the book and really kind of learn some basics, right? Cuz not all of us learn financial literacy at home or in school or anything like that. So we want to make sure that you walk away with some basics. So just a real quick recap of last time. We talked about the wealth equation, which is money is 80% psychology, which is the mindset, which is the work that we talked about last week. Please catch the replay if you didn't. And 20% strategy. So my thought process is if you can add, divide, multiply, and subtract, you can do money, right? It's really all about reframing like any type of negative beliefs or negative thoughts when it comes to money. And once you have the proper mindset and you realize, okay, I want to make a different decision, I want to learn certain things, and you just give yourself grace and take the time out to actually learn. So if you haven't met me before, I am Mia James. I'm actually a financial wellness coach. I do actually introduce my clients to different financial professionals. So I do act as a concierge in some way. But I always like to tell people a little bit about me, especially if tonight is your first time joining us. If it is, let us know in the chat. We want to interact with you because I really love to get feedback. I've always been fascinated with how money works from a little kid. And when I was growing up, I started my first business in 7th grade, started investing at 16, stopped investing because of a comment that my father made. And then I started back investing again. And now I'm a financial wellness coach because a lot of times when we think of wellness, we think of, exercising and what we eat. But a lot of times we don't stop to think that wellness encompasses finances too. And so I take a holistic approach. I am a certified yoga instructor, as well as a coach, like I said. And my mission is to help women to really redefine how they see wellness and include finances in that. So that's just a little bit about me and my mission in my business, which is called Beyond the Busyness. Because I know us black, especially us black women, y'all, we are running the world, right, Doria? Are we not running all the things and all the people? And sometimes we can get so busy, and I don't use that word. I like to say that I'm intentionally scheduled because everything on my calendar has an intention behind it. And I want to make sure that we make our finances just as much as an intention as we do everything else. So, what we're in the book, if you have the book handy, One of the things that I encourage you to do is to take a spending audit. So you might be like, Mia, what is a spending audit? Basically, you are looking to kind of see where you are right now. You're lifting the hood. And, I was on a podcast last night and we were kind of talking about, um, different feelings people have around money, whether it's shame because you might be at a certain age and you think, oh, I should be at this juncture in my life right now. Or, you make a lot of money, but you feel you don't really see the money that you make. What I want you to do is when you do this audit, I want you to start with giving yourself some grace by saying, I've done the best I can to get to where I am today, right? Because you don't know what you don't know. So the first thing you do when you take a look at your spending, so you want to look at like either your checking account statements, your credit card statements, whatever you use to spend from, and you want to see if there's any areas where you may be overspending, where you're like, ooh, I spent that much on that. Those types of things, right? Any areas you can cut back, anything where you might be like, wow, this is very pricey. Like you didn't realize you were paying X amount for subscriptions. So basically you want to do an assessment because as I mentioned before, I want us to approach this as the CFO of our own finances. Okay, so we are the CFO of our own finances. You're the CEO of your life and the CFO of your finances, right? You get to make these major decisions. The other thing is we want to look at where do you want to increase, right? Maybe you're contributing to a Roth IRA. Maybe you're contributing $100 a month. Maybe you want to double it to $200 a month. Maybe your term life insurance is about to run out. So maybe it's time to get some permanent coverage because, one thing that I ask my clients all the time, would you like to have insurance after your term is out? And they're like, yeah, I definitely do. I want to leave something to my kids. Okay, well, let's talk about how we can get you some permanent coverage. So I want you to look at if there's any areas where you can actually increase what you're already doing, right? Or maybe there's some areas, maybe you're really great at doing something and you can actually bring in some additional income. And then last but not least, I always recommend to my clients to automate things like savings and investing. This way it's a set it and forget it. You know that it's happening. And basically when you're consistent over time, that's when you start to see real growth. Because as this slide says, once the money is in your savings, you want to leave it there, right? So you just want to just put it on autopilot, unless you absolutely need it in an emergency. But an emergency is not, oh, I need, obviously I need to get a new outfit or you need some concert tickets, right? Because some people really like take money out of their savings account because of something that is not going to help their future. So I always ask myself if I'm making a purchase, will my future self thank me for this later? So that's your spending audit. And I believe that is going to be in chapter 3. Then the next step, because we already talked step 1 and step 2, which is kind of what we went over last week. Step 1 is like really having your vision. And step 2 is having a date with your dollars. And then you go into your spending audit. That's still under chapter 2. But then we're going to get into chapter 3, which is on assets, right? So when I like to keep things super simple, right? Because it's like, okay, well, some people say, I don't have any assets. I was like, I can guarantee you have some assets. So there's 2 rules to think about when you're trying to distinguish what assets you have. One is, does it make you money or do you have access to money? It's that simple. Okay. So chapter 3, I believe is on assets. I'm trying to remember off the top of my head. I got stuck out, y'all, so I apologize. That I did not make it back to my office in time. So some other examples of assets are checking and savings accounts, your 401k that you may have at work, an IRA, which is an individual retirement account, stocks, any cash you have, cash in the bank, cash in your home, any rental properties where you get cash flow from that, even your checking account. So all of these things count as assets. And a lot of times, I was talking to my mentor, and she was saying, like, a lot of women think like, oh, I don't have any wealth, not realizing that they have retirement accounts, they have bank accounts. Like, you do have something. It may not be exactly what you want it to be today, but the Bible tells us, do not despise small beginnings. So always remember that you start with the seed that you have. We nurture it, right? We plant the seed, we nurture the seed, we're grateful for the seed. And then we take action steps to make those seeds grow, right? It's just like planting a garden. It's the same thing that you're doing with your wealth. So, in terms of one thing I like to point out, and this is also in the book too. Well, before I go there, let me talk about liquidity. One of the things that I like people to understand is having diversification, right? What do I mean? Diversification just means differences. Okay. And you want to have diversity in your assets, and you also want to have diversity in your taxes, and diversity in liquidity. Why does that matter? You want to have diversity in liquidity because there's times when you actually need physical, cold, hard cash to be able to make a transaction. Or let's say you have an emergency, right? That's a time that you want to have physical cash available, right? So you don't have to, potentially get into more debt. So something that's highly liquid, again, is anything you can pull out immediately, like cash. Something that has low liquidity is something like a house, right? Because you don't know how fast you can sell a house and get the money out of the house, right? It's a process that you have to go through. And so when you're thinking about your assets, you want to also diversify across liquidity. And the more liquid something is, um sometimes the less the rate of return will be. And that depends, right? It depends on what asset class we're talking about. But just understand, like, a lot of times, like, of course, real estate, I've seen, like, my property go up tremendously in value in a short amount of time. But of course, if I don't take out a home equity line of credit, I'm not going to really have access to that equity, if that makes sense. So, it's just kind of sitting in the house until I decide to access it or not. Okay. So, one thing, a lot of people believe, again, that their house is an asset, and this is a debatable topic, right? So I'm going to talk to you on two sides of the fence, because some people believe it is, some people believe it's not. So for the people who don't believe that your house is an asset, they believe that because you're paying for it is creating an expense, but it's not bringing in any income, that is not an asset. Now, it can become an asset, right? Because you can rent it out and make cash flow. Or you can rent rooms or rent the whole thing, right? You can also Airbnb it. You can turn it into an asset that way, or you can take out a HELOC, right? And take some of the equity out of your home. So it depends on, not to get into too much jargon, but it depends on what side of the balance sheet the home is on, right? So assets are, like I said, generally anything that's making you money, and anything that, or you can easily access cash from, right? Or you have access to take it out. Excuse me. So I don't see any questions so far, but if you have them, feel free to put them into the chat for me. So the other thing that I have here on this slide is the FIRE pivot, right? And so FIRE stands for financially independent, retire early. And that's basically, using your home to basically be a cash flowing asset. So that's what I did when I decided to quit my job, and when I retired at 40. I was like, I don't want to be responsible for a mortgage right now. So I moved in with my friend, and I rented my house out and made extra cash in addition to what I was making from my business. So now it has been a cash flowing asset for 6 years. So that is something to think about, especially if you're going into entrepreneurship. Like, how can you leverage the assets you already have? You don't always have to sell assets, and I actually don't recommend it if you can avoid it. You can leverage assets to bring in additional income. So the next step in this is paying yourself first. Why should we pay ourselves first? Do we have any entrepreneurs in here? I'm just curious, if, kind of where everyone lands.
You mean besides me? Because I'm trying to do that too.
What, be an entrepreneur or the fire?
Absolutely. Both, but let's talk
Both.
with the entrepreneur. Let's start
Okay,
small,
excellent.
granular.
I love it. I love it. So there's two ways you can think about paying yourself first, whether you have a job or you're an entrepreneur. What do I mean by that? If you have a job, you pay God first, and then you pay yourself second, and then you pay your bills. Because let me put it like this. A lot of people that I've encountered, okay, you may not do this, right? Some people that I've encountered, they pay their bills first, and then they save if anything is left. Well, if you continue to do that week after week, month after month, year after year, one day you're going to look up and you're not going to be able to exchange time for money, i.e., you're not going to be able to work anymore. And if you cannot work and you're past your earning years, what happens when it's time for you to retire? We're behind. So, the first thing that, if I can leave you with anything tonight, I want you to take your income, pay God, pay you, and then pay your bills. I know it's a completely new paradigm, but what you're doing, you're teaching yourself, you're reprogramming your brain. Because we have to reprogram. The only way for us to become wealthy, we have to start thinking like wealthy people. The Clearly, if the old way worked, we would all be already where we want to be. So we have to do something different, right? What do they say? The definition of insanity is doing the same thing, expecting different results. Well, we're not doing that anymore. We're doing something different. So with that, we're going to transition now into the emergency fund. And all of this is in the book too, by the way. So I believe what we're tonight, if I remember correctly, this is covering chapters 3 through 7. Okay. So what I recommend is, I don't want you to rush. I don't want you to feel like, oh, I gotta finish chapters 3 through 7. I want you to do maybe like one chapter a weekend or one chapter a month. Make it digestible for you, especially if you've historically been avoidant with numbers. And get your favorite drink, get your blanket, whatever makes you feel comfortable. Listen to some affirmations, and know that you too can be successful with your finances. It's just putting one foot in front of the other. Because if, like, for example, when we were little, and when we were, maybe 3 years old, we didn't know how to ride bikes. Then we got a bike with training wheels. Then eventually your parent might have took off one training wheel. Then, you started balancing. Then eventually you took off both training wheels. But that was a process. And so the same way that we learn anything in life, right? It's a process. So this part is on emergency funds. So I believe it's around chapter 4. I believe that is on savings, if I'm not mistaken. And with that, you want to, first of all, calculate your emergency fund. So your emergency fund is not necessarily the entirety of your paycheck. Because a lot of people is like, okay, I make $5,000 a month. If I want a 3-month emergency fund, that's $15,000. Not necessarily. So you can, what I recommend is your mandatory housing costs, right? So that could be mortgage or rent, renter's insurance or homeowner's insurance, things like that. Anything pertaining to your housing. All transportation costs that you absolutely have to pay, food, and any other household essentials like your utilities and things of that nature. And then you're going to add that together and multiply that by 3 months, 6 months, 9 months, or 12 months. If you're an entrepreneur, I recommend 9 to 12 months of an emergency savings. And that's how you determine how much you need, a savings goal for your emergency fund. Because this way you don't have to go into debt if you have an emergency. Okay, so this calculation, and there's a whole worksheet also inside the book. And then along those lines, also in that chapter on savings, I talk about sinking funds. So you might be like, I've never heard of this before in my life. Well, all my bills are not due every month, right? I'm sure some of you have bills that are due annually, bills that are due semi-annually or quarterly, right? What I do is I take that amount. Let's say my insurance is $1,200 for the year. I save $100 a month and I put it in a high yield savings account. And when that bill comes around, I take the $1,200 from the high yield savings account and I deposit it into my checking account where the bill is going to be paid. And voila, my spending plan, which many people call a budget, is not thrown off. Because I've saved for this expense. Like I had some people tell me like, oh, I can't pay for it now because I just had to pay my HOA or I just had to pay this I'm like, this is coming. Like, why not prepare for it in advance? I have a fund for car repairs. Well, I donated my car, so I don't have a car anymore. And then travel, right? And I honestly believe in some countries travel is covered by health insurance. But I believe travel should be covered by health insurance because traveling is good for your mental health. But anything you're going to spend money on, you set aside a bucket of money in your savings account, and then when you're ready to use the money, you put it into your checking account. So that's my recommendation on sinking funds. And you can read more about it in the book. So let's see how we're doing with these slides here. And if y'all have questions, I think I'm going to end here because I know we're about 1 minute out. So what I'll do is for our last session, I'm going to cover the rest of the book. And then if you all have questions, I will leave some time for Q&A. That way I can make sure that I answer your questions. And I will do a high-level overview of the rest of the book for you all. So we'll cover the last half of the book. And I'll make sure that we have time for Q&A. Like 30 minutes is super short. So yes, I'm like, whoo. But I'm going to put up this last slide just in case anyone, let's see here. Anyone wants to connect with me. This is all my contact information here. Oh, thank you. Talking with Nana. I love that. Oh, you are most welcome. You can reach out to me on social media. I'm on YouTube, TikTok, Facebook, and Instagram at Beyond the Busyness. And then definitely thank you if you gotten a copy of the book, because 25% of the proceeds go to funding. I am starting a self-care scholarship for mothers. So 25% of the proceeds from the book go to help a mom have some self-care. So thank you so much. So thank you, Ms. Dorielle.
Thank you so much, Ms. Mia. I really
Welcome.
appreciate it. I know my audience appreciates it. People will be coming in and watching the replay. I wanted to make sure I know that the sun has gone down because I see you in the car sitting in the. That's okay. We got it in. We got it in, and we stayed under time. So once again, folks, thank you so much. Please share. Thank you for the people who are talking with Nana. Please let me know. I'd love to know where you or how you got the information and where you're hailing from. Please let us know. If there's any other questions, we will be on next week, next Wednesday, for our last Wednesday in this iteration. And again, this was a partnership between my show, Dorielle Larrier Show, and NCNW Flappers, National Council of Negro Women Flapper Section. And this is part of our Economics and Entrepreneurship Committee, because we want to make sure that we get our coins in order, right? And we also definitely want to support entrepreneurs. And so thank you to Sister Mia James, who's the financial wellness coach. Yes, thank you so much. So I guess Nana's your soror. Wonderful.
Yes, hey, soror.
Excellent. And so make sure again that you can get a copy of the book, which will be fabulous. Share it with those people in your periphery, those people within your organizations, in your family, people at work, wherever, in your church, because hearing this information once can get you thinking hearing this information 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 different times. Like I said, right before we came on this show, I want this information about assets, liabilities, sinking funds, emergency funds. I want it to be so like spilling off of our tongue the way we, and I'm always going to use a church reference, the way we spill off of our tongue Genesis 1:1 or the 23rd Psalm. Like we literally should be sharing this information, not necessarily because we're women or because we're entrepreneurs or because we are of the African diaspora, but just because we want our communities to be better and be stronger and be more financially astute, right? It doesn't have to be in us that has a couple of coins and some other group of people that has a whole lot of coins. We all can have coins, but we need to make sure that we know what to do with them. So let's listen, heed the wise wisdom from Sister Mia and the people that she collaborates with in order to make sure that we get our coins in order, right? We get our house in order, and that's part of what I wanted to do here. So again, peace and blessings. Thank you so much, Sister Mia. We will see you next week, same time, 7 p.m. And any questions I will glean from my periphery of people in order to add to this prior to us getting to that last day, so that you have some more questions to answer. And I really appreciate you.
Awesome. Thank you so much. Can't wait.
All right. Peace and blessings, everyone.
Good night.
All right. Good night. And those people who have stayed around, thank you so much once again. If you are watching this on the replay, please make sure that you share it. Make sure also that you get the book. The link will be in the YouTube and the Facebook description, and it'll also be in the caption of this broadcast so that you can get your own copy. Have family conversations. You know, we meet around food and family celebrations for a number of other situations, and there should be, and I'm speaking for myself as well, and I'm definitely incorporating some family meetings into my legacy so that my offspring and my family knows that this is something that should always be discussed, how we're going to leave a legacy and how we're going to build a stronger family and community together. So peace and blessings. This is a Learn to Grow You moment where I plant seeds to help you grow, and I look forward to seeing you next week.